Bleak as life can seem when you're lying awake in the middle of the night, it's an immutable truth that everything will be better in the morning. Everything, that is, but English cricket. Hope didn't even make it to sunup. It slipped out the door while you were sleeping. And all of us poor fools who set our alarms for 3:30 a.m. found that all the bright optimism that got us out of bed was spluttering as soon as we'd flicked the kettle on, guttering while the tea brewed, and out altogether by the bottom of the cup. The idea that England might break their own record and make 354 to win lasted just under 3 overs. Long enough for Josh Hazlewood to pinch a couple of wickets, and, with them, England out of their dreaming. Following England can be a masochistic business. Why do it? Jim Laker had a good answer. It took him 11 years and 46 tests to solve a question that has vexed critics, philosophers and American tourists for over 100 years. The aim of English Test cricket, Laker wrote, is, in fact, mainly to beat Australia. Half a century later, India are the best team in the world and the ECB is contorting the summer schedules to try to help the one-day side finally win the World Cup. But, in the thick of another Ashes series, it feels like there's a measure more truth in Laker's take than some of the more discerning fans might like to let on. English cricket's prayer is still please let us beat them. For now it's back to living on scraps, talking up the little glimmers of good things done in this match. James Anderson's first 5-4 in Australia, Craig Overton's all-round performance on debut, those gritty little teens, 20s and 30s by Mark Stoneman and Dorad Mallon. After that, on with concocting far-fetched schemes for the WACA, fanciful thoughts about whether Mark Wood, who has only bowled 14 overs in the last 2 months, might yet tear through Australia, whether Ben Foakes, who's never played so much as a T20 game for England, or Gary Ballance, who averages 13 in his last 5 tests, could fix the English middle order. Which feels like chicken feed to live on, given the larger problems. Unless they're playing under floodlights, England's attack are outmatched in these conditions, especially so when their 2 senior pros, Anderson and Stuart Broad, made the mistake of bowling as short as they did in the first innings here. On top of that, their batsmen have lost the knack of scoring centuries. In the last 2 years, England have made many more 50s per match than any other team in the world, but fewer hundreds per match than most of them too. The only team with a worse conversion rate in that time is Bangladesh. The hope now isn't so much that they might yet win the series. Even all us Hurlybird followers surely aren't so foolhardy to really think they can do that now. But instead, that they will hold themselves together, fight as hard for 5 days as they did in the first 3 days in Brisbane and on the 4th in Adelaide, and win a match somewhere along the way. Talking on the BBC on Monday, Matt Pryor explained that he didn't think it much mattered whether the team was whitewashed or not. In his mind there was little difference between losing 32 or 50, since the only important point was that they'd lost at all. But England should beware thinking that way. All those dashed English expectations tend to lead to severe recriminations. The last 2 English coaches whose teams lost series in Australia lost their jobs too. Duncan Fletcher quit after the World Cup this spring, following his side's whitewash. 6 years later, Andy Flower went as well, after another 50 thrashing. Those defeats seemed to be so damaging that it took months of intensive repair work for the team to recover. In 2007 the ECB commissioned a 6-man panel to conduct an investigation into what went wrong, and 2013 was the start of that rolling omni-shambles which saw them sack their star batsman, hire and fire both a new coach and director of cricket. Ashes whitewashes can end careers, for captains, coaches, and players. 8 of the 20 men England picked in 201,314 never played a test for them again. There are some capital winners out here, sniffed Lord Harris when he toured Australia in the 19th century, but I'm afraid I cannot apply the same adjective to them as losers. Bad as Australia may have been then, England have been dismal at it in the last decade, in a different way. Each Ashes series defeat seems to become a kind of generational trauma that leaves the team in therapy. And even before England lost this second test, you could feel the wellspring of angst, blame, and complaint bubbling up. Last week it was the concerns about the team culture, whether or not it had grown too lax or the players were too fond of their booze. This week it was the worry about their lack of fast bowlers. And this last issue, you guess, could get particularly messy given that the next test is at the WACA. And if that all seems a little bleak, the sun's up now, and that scorecard isn't looking any prettier. This is an extract taken from The Spin, The Guardian's weekly cricket email. To subscribe, just visit this page and follow the instructions.